I'm sorry, Andrew Weissman, but if I recall correctly, in 2018, you were one of the people who helped write the Mueller report, and you all botched the hell out of that.
And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought we would be here. I thought we were better as a country.
Oh, yeah.
Like all these sites that have been around for creating videos and all that, like text stock videos, they're done.
But that's why Canva was one of the first to get into doing AI.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations. 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that team, we have reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting on November 2nd, but I'm never the star. I don't want to be the star because Prince said he said to these ladies, baby, you're the stars. What is up?
Oh, man, we're down to the final countdown. What is it? The final countdown.
Who sung that final? This is the final. Who sung that song?
I don't know. I don't remember who did that one.
Okay, well, I'm going to look that up while you ladies are settling in. What's been going on? What up? What up?
Oh, Aisha, you're muted.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, nothing. I'm just ready for this to, I think I'm ready for it to come to a conclusion here.
Okay.
Yeah. We talked about that on Girlfriends Chat this weekend.
We did.
Pretty exhausted.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. And I think that we just, I think that it's time. We're ready. I think because there's another part to this, right? So there's the part that happens and starts November 6th. So if and we should also plug that we're doing an election night results returns.
Why are you stealing all my thunder?
I'm saying that even after
people are gonna click off now after like 2 minutes and 52 seconds.
So we don't know how long that show's gonna. So we don't even know how long that show's gonna go, right? It's gonna go till we get tired enough. Right? But we still might not get those results then. So November 6th is when the real things. You know, I have Prince fans who we connect on Twitter, and one of them was saying to me that they're kind of afraid for our country because, on one hand, if he wins, they're afraid for us, and if he loses, they're afraid for us because he said he's overseas. He said he's never seen the U.S. this close to being on the brink of a civil war, and the real concern at this point isn't the election now. It moves to after November 5th. We move to
time because you'll take away 3 of our conversation topics in 1 minute. So let's stop. Let's get to this. All right. Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala at Patreon, aka Girlfriends Chat. I'm going to change that. Girlfriends Chat. That's proper to change that. Then the store, there's the link. And on most platforms you're watching this, it'll be in the comments. Also, join the Discord group. I think that's going to be a very interesting Discord group this week. It always is. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of, please email me dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. And also, we never forget that lady named Dr. Tachi from Fort Lauderdale, who runs and powers Indie Soup Media that has over 40 independent content creators and has now over 20,000 YouTube subscribers in about 7 or 8 months. And we are happy to be part of that platform. And people are already in. Number 1 fan, Jen Myers. Hello. Ramsey Unleashed, all the way. It's been a while. Is it from Scotland? Is with us. As how am I keeping? Sir, I am keeping Black Alicious. And the singer of the final countdown was a group called Europe. So
I would have missed that one.
Yeah.
I missed one.
Jen Meyer says Europe sang it also, and that sung it. Okay. And says, guess she is not a she. None of these ladies are. So get ready, get ready. And in the house also, Regina is in the house. All right. Might as well just put up the banner and let you ladies just fly. All right. Well, you know what? I'll put that up later. Let's talk about it first. The amping up of violent rhetoric in the final days of the U.S. presidential election.
So I can continue with what I say.
Yes, go ahead. Now you can get your. Go ahead.
So this friend was saying that they're worried for us if he wins because of the descent into fascism and autocracy, and then if he loses because this violence. We're already seeing the violence with people burning mailboxes, U.S. Postal, just so you know, that's a federal crime, but burning the U.S. Postal Service boxes because people are putting their mail-in ballots in them. November 6th is the date we need to worry because Trump, I promise you, by 10 p.m. on the 5th, he's going to do like he did the last time, hold a press conference and come out and say he won and to stop the count. And here's the thing. I'm hoping that, and because she's pretty much run a flawless campaign, I almost expected that when the polls close, the first polls close, Kamala will make comments about we have to make sure that every vote is counted. And we might not get a result tonight because there are this. And, you know, people should understand the reason that a lot of those votes aren't going to count. It has nothing to do with Democrats. Republicans are really snowing people into not seeing the fact that they passed these laws in these states, specifically these red states, that don't allow for counting of early vote until after the polls close that night.
Right.
And that's the problem. Like my state, for example, when you get your 8 o'clock result from Connecticut, that's your 8 o'clock result from Connecticut. You know how we know? Because when I early voted, I asked the lady and she told me, no, we start counting early vote, day of voting at 6 a.m. We start the early count at 6 a.m. And I was like, oh, okay. So they start early. So you have a lot of these states that put into their state legislation, because remember, people forget, even though this is a federal election, elections, how they're run, are run out of the states. Kind of like those, remember how they want to send abortion to the states, and so all these states have their abortion on the ballot. Well, guess what? States run the elections, and so the federal election law, we have a general federal election law, but every state has their own set of election laws. And one of those things that they get to determine for themselves is if they allow for early vote, and if they do, when they will count those ballots. So, you know, November 6th is when he's going to start his nonsense. Steve Bannon is already, you know, I find it funny that Steve Bannon got out of jail this week, right?
No, who you telling?
Because he's already starting that BS that he did the last time. Remember, he was one of the people who helped plan and rally people to the ellipse January 6th. So there's that. And then, of course, there were his comments about Liz Cheney and putting four whatever rifles in her face. It's like, this is bogus. This is nonsense. We are better than this. Or are we? I mean, that's the other question you have to ask. Are we better? Are we better than this? When a lot of the country hears that and doesn't have a problem with it.
I'm just, how do you top that? Because everything is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that they've already told us a long time ago, I mean, over a year ago, he's already started with the rhetoric of he's not going to accept anything other than a win. So he has got his people all lined up for that. And the fact that the disrespect for our elections started early, and he's got these groupies that don't care about process or understand process, is going to unfold, and we're going to see it. And my words to Aisha and girlfriends chat, and y'all need to go and hear that, is I'm concerned as well for our country, because I'm not concerned so much. I know it's going to be very close. I'm not concerned so much about Kamala pulling it out. What I'm concerned about is the aftermath. And that is what's frightening to me, because if y'all thought that January 6th was terrible, we're going to see other things. Now, the only thing that someone said this week, and I said, I didn't think about it this way, is he came on and he said, you know what? Y'all think y'all think that y'all done something on January 6th. You caught them off guard is what you did. But now they know what to expect from you. So you better be rethinking what your plans are if you're planning on doing something stupid. But we're seeing it in everyday news now, more and more rhetoric, like that parade that was done, that they had a Trump, it was a Trump, it was a float, and they had Trump on the float, and they had Kamala in chains behind it. And families were horrified. And I do believe some people who were Trump supporters even said themselves, this has gone too far. This is just way too much.
And they called it Halloween, a Halloween thing. And not to interrupt you, Laura, but the fact of the matter is Halloween is,
they have a double, they triple.
We have a Lala and I talked about Halloween, right? When we talked about it, it's not one of my favorite holidays, it's one of hers. And but one of the things that never sits well with me, because people make an excuse of showing their racism on Halloween. So there were also pictures of children dressed as January 6th rioters with AR-15s, like these 11, 12-year-olds. I saw a picture of he couldn't have been more than 7, dressed as Trump with another child in blackface chained to him as Barack Obama, and a little girl dressed as Hillary chained behind him. And then they called it Halloween fun. You know what? I told my daughter about this last night because I was concerned, because she was going to a party on campus, and I was like, as Black women, be careful where you guys go, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Because yes, it's Halloween, but it's also right before this election, and I don't trust, honestly, right now. I fear for you being around, a big group of white boys, and I said, because you're probably thinking your generation a little bit more open-minded, but remember that those guys your age and your generation were raised by people from my generation, and they were raised by people from my mother's generation.
Yes.
Okay, so this is how racism gets passed down, because we saw it in those pictures, and like you said, those things, they had children there, Lala.
Yes. And that's what one of the people were talking about. I don't want my kids to see this. We packed up and we left, is what we did. And you can't even go and have good old-fashioned fun, just going to a parade or going to just a grocery store now. Because also another thing that was very popularized this week on content is that there was a Trump supporter that went to the polls with his Trump gear on. You're not allowed to do that. I can't go to the polls with Harris gear on. It is against the rules. You are not allowed to do that. And he went after those Black women like mad. He called them. He threatened them. He put his hands on one of them women, and they handled it so professionally. You have to remember, these poll workers are volunteers. Right. And they're just telling him what the rules are. So when he saw that they were serious, like, no, sir, you can't vote. And even after pushing and stuff, they were like, you got to go. He took his hat and threw it out the door as if that was going to change anything.
Yeah.
We are really going to be seeing some madness.
Yeah. The only thing that doesn't worry me about anything on DC is this. Like Regina Frisk is saying in the comments, Joe Biden is the president. If things get out of hand, he's not going to just sit there and watch TV like Donald Trump did on January 6th.
And had dance parties.
Mm-hmm. And when he gets offered the because remember, National Guard is the governors of the states call out the National Guard. The president can federalize it, but usually that's only after they've been offered by the states. And so just like Maryland tried to offer theirs, DC tried to offer police, Virginia, all these surrounding states, Pennsylvania offered on January 6th to send their National Guard, and Trump would not accept. So I think that is the one thing that we really have to thank our stars for, because should that happen there. But not only that, we're very lucky that in some of these battleground states, they do have Democratic governors who also will call out their National Guard. And I think, like, for example, when we're talking about the count, Arizona's on Pacific time, right?
Yeah.
Well, Arizona doesn't count their early vote until that night after the last vote is cast. Well, if it's Pacific time and they close at 8:00, right? That's already 11:00 on the East Coast. So there's no way you're going to get a result by their 8:00 time when they just start counting their early ballot. And guess what? Early ballots, early vote, and Trump might shoot himself in the foot with this. Early vote has skyrocketed among Republicans.
Yes.
Republicans are a third.
His numbers are high.
Yeah.
But you have to take into account that those are early votes.
Yeah, but guess what? They're now leveling out more in these last couple of days. But about a third of the early vote are his people. So he's gonna, and this is where the madness of who this man comes in, is that these people who early voted for him know they early voted for him. You can't have it both ways, that you have a third of the early vote and the early vote shouldn't count,
right?
Or should be disqualifying. And here's the thing, because we have so many ways for people to vote now, right? Because remember, there were places that always had all early votes, and then for the most part, everybody went on election night and cast their ballot, pulled the lever back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Now that it's like a patchwork quilt. Every state has different rules as to when they close their polls, when they start their early count, when they do their final count, if they have to do a second count, if it has to be certified by who else, before they announce it. So with the expectation that there are 50 states plus several territories, every last one of them has different rules. Why should we expect to get one answer on that one night?
That's right.
Let me jump in. Well, one thing I'm going to say, though, isn't it really just come down to the 7 swing states, really and truly?
I think it might, but here's the thing. If she pulls Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania by midnight, it's done. He doesn't have a route. He doesn't really have a route. He'd have to pick up all the other ones, which is Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, and there's one other one, but he'd have to pick up all those plus keep all of his and maybe flip one blue state.
Okay, so let me catch up with comments, and also I'm going to read a part of an article that was published back in the New York Times that I think relates to the subject here, the amping up of violent rhetoric. So Jen Meyer says, doing well, Dr. Vibe. Hope you are also. I am ready. I'll be here for the watch party. Glad I voted because the lines in person will be off the chain. Well, I'm already hearing they're off the chain. Regina says, is 45 a Prince fan? I had 1981 flashbacks with that mic simulation at the rally last night.
Oh,
early dementia is in full swing.
Yeah, I got to have a look at that. Yeah, because I heard about it today.
Rude remarks and inappropriate sexual behavior. She also says, I predict martial law. I am leaving the country on November 8th. Thank God Joe Biden is the president and he can protect Harris as their new leader. Actually, it was funny. I was chatting with an associate yesterday, and he says if Ms. Harris doesn't win, he's already on his way to Jamaica. I said, well, if you need a place to stay, we have one down there. Michelle Hayward, what is up? Good evening. YouTube is at it again with your cover image when you all are live. Well, it's a good cover image I put up there, gets people's attention. I hope they didn't do anything funny, but you tell me, Michelle. Regina also says, good advice on avoiding white bros, Aisha. MAGA is poisoning everything. I saw that MAGA had confrontation. He did not do anything to the white women. The black women were fierce and strong. Regina says, I predict the tribal votes go to Harris. And she also says, Florida, 85 to 90% of the Puerto Rican vote is now going to Harris, 1.52 million Florida residents. And if I have your lady's permission, I'm going to read a bit of an article.
Go ahead.
From the New York Times. 45 has turned it up to an 11. This is written by a gentleman named Thomas B. Edsall. Mr. Edsall contributes a weekly column from Washington, D.C. on politics, demographics, and inequality. And this was done from October 16th. I'm just going to read a part because I think it relates to the rhetoric. So he says, 45 is so dependent on racial and ethnic antagonism that without it, he'd be a marginal figure relegated to the sidelines. 45's constant demonization of Black people and immigrants has inured the public to the fact that he is first, or certainly most explicit, modern president and party nominee to transparently generate, not to mention exacerbate, fear and white animosity toward people of color. Despite his appeal to a small, if potentially crucial segment of Black and Hispanic men, racial bigotry has been central to 45's appeal from his initial quest in 2015 and 2016 to take over the Republican Party. In the closing days of the 2024 election, he continues to foment race hatred and rely on it even more intently. In the 2018 book, The Identity Crisis, 2016 Presidential Campaign and the Battle for the Meaning of America, by political scientists John Sides, Michael Tesler, and Lynn Vavarek, I hope I got that name right. If not, my head, not my heart, documented the success of 45's strategy. Quote, 45 was destructive in how he tapped into white grievance, unquote, they wrote. Quote, 45's primary campaign became a vehicle for a different kind of identity politics, unquote, one oriented towards capitalizing on the feeling of many white people that they were being, quote, pushed aside in an increasingly diverse America, unquote. 45 crushed his primary opponents by magnifying and mobilizing the racial resentment and bitter discontent endemic in the Republican electorate. How endemic? Sides, Vester, and Vaverick wrote in late 2015, a PRRI survey found that 64% of Republicans claim to believe that, quote, discrimination against whites has become as big a problem as discrimination against Blacks and other minorities, unquote. 45 has consistently capitalized on the vulnerability and the racial prejudice of these white voters, repeatedly legitimizing their sense of victimization and grievance. Quote, there is a definite anti-white feeling in this country, and that cannot be allowed, unquote, 45 told Time magazine in April. Quote, and I'll read just a little bit more because it goes on for a while, but just says, I'll just go to another paragraph here. For 45, the angry Republican electorate has been fertile ground, and it's getting even more so as the United States inexorably moves from one overwhelming white majority to a white minority. From 2010 to 2022, the non-Hispanic white share of the population fell to 58.9% from 63.8% in roughly 20 years, according to the U.S. Census. Whites are predicted to make up less than half of the population. 45 initially rose to power on the backs of white voters who felt most aggrieved by what they saw in the subversion of their status, employment, and income by an ascendant people of color. What does 45's rise say about the level of bigotry and prejudice in this country? Stanley Feldman, a political scientist at Stony Brook University, emailed his response to my query, quote, there is no question that 45 has made appeals to whites who are threatened by the growing size and influence of Blacks and Latinos, a central part of his campaign and rhetoric. I could go on longer, but I'll just leave it at that. It's a really good article, and
it's a good article. What you read is true. However, I don't know how much about, I noticed how things take different perspective no matter who you are. For example, in the very second paragraph that you were reading, he said that Trump is probably the first president. No, and first nominee to be that explicit about race. It's not, that's not true. That's something that I think that a lot of white people are telling themselves now, because the truth of the matter is that 1948, Strom Thurmond ran on the Dixie Party. He ran on segregation. Then George Wallace also ran in 1968 when he got shot. He was the governor of Alabama, the racist governor who stood in the doorway while they were trying to desegregate the University of Alabama. One of the women who was there, she passed away now, but was the sister-in-law of Eric Holder. Okay, then Nixon with his Southern strategy, just blatantly racist, and then Reagan kicked off his campaign in Neshoba County on the issue of Neshoba County, Mississippi, on the issue of states' rights. And remember that Neshoba County is where Freedom Summer took place. Neshoba County is where Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner were murdered. So, and he kicked that off exactly 20 years later in that space. So
he's not the only one. This is a part of history.
Right. We have to get to we got to stop we got to be honest. It's not a bug in the Republican Party. This is a feature at this point. I went all the way back to 1948, starting with Strom Thurmond. So to say that, oh, Trump did, no, they paved the way. You know what Trump did? What happened was that after Reagan, Republicans realized, oh, well, racism, people are like moving away from us now after Reagan, because remember, Reagan won 49 states the first time. Okay?
Wow.
Right. And so that should tell you something. But the concern now, the reason that it's so much stark and more clear to Trump people now, clear to us and other people, is that we didn't have social media.
Yeah.
People are able, you didn't see, for example, you couldn't see what people in California were doing unless it made national news. So all these things that we hear about, we see, it feels like it is, new because the way that it's being brought to us is new, but this was ongoing. This was happening, but because it was happening in little silos, and in the 90s, it got to a point where the media just wasn't covering the racism until the Rodney King riots. But between the mid to late 80s through 1992, it seems like that era racism had died down. And now that it seems like, oh, Trump's not making it worse. It's the fact that he has more avenues and more eyes on him. That man can burp, fart, blink his eyes or whatever, and the media is gonna cover it.
And that's what he loves,
because that's the problem.
He's one of those who has to continuously have his face or his presence or his words all needs to be on him. He is a media hog. He uses every aspect that he can. If that means he has to say some of the worst to get the media, he's doing that. But that is also a strategy. Mm-hmm. And he knows that that's a strategy, and he knows that it works for him because he is rallying what I always say, the base of fear, the base of hate. The more and more you speak that language, the better. And we've already said that this is the same playbook as Hitler. And the more and more that I study Hitler, because for a long time I really, just that wasn't something that was very, very interesting to me, and the fact that I know it was absolutely horrible. But I didn't want to go down that road because it was so atrocious. But now, in the last year or two of me studying that, I'm like, oh my God, this is the exact footsteps. And for people not to see that when we saw it so clearly after it happened there is frightening.
Well, and for the writer to say that it was Trump, which not only goes back to what I said, but let's go even back even further. Hitler was inspired by the segregation in this country. Sent people to this country to study how they were doing it in the South. Okay, so now, you know what? Racism, and I wrote this article basically that, racism is as American as apple pie.
Yeah.
100%.
It's not like, oh, racism just came out of nowhere. The first people that left England and came to the United States got off the boat with their racism when they decided that they were going to take the land that was already owned and call it theirs. And then gave the indigenous people blankets infested with smallpox. So this country was, quote unquote, founded, however you find something that's already discovered and owned, but founded on racism.
I'm reading this book called White Trash, and I absolutely love it. It really does dig deep about how this country got started and what the reasoning was for it. And then, England sent all of the undesirables, and out of the undesirables, they made their own hierarchy. So you're looking at rejects coming to give themselves power over here and build off the backs of others and things that are not theirs. And, oh, look, this land is free. Oh, excuse me, you was here first? Oh, no, I won't take it now. We're going to move you over here. These are things that came out of their own wants and needs of being powerful because they couldn't be in their own country.
All right. Real
quick, think of that song. This land is my land.
There. Yep.
This land is our land.
Got it. 100%. 100%. All right. Getting some echoing on Laura's end.
Me?
No, I get it. We're getting on your end.
Okay. This is weird. Okay, hold on. All right, so let me catch up with comments. So Lala says everyone is going to the polls, not pools, but you should maybe go for a swim after. You need to cleanse yourself off. Be fully aware of the surroundings. Regina says, what about George Wallace?
Yep.
She also says, sick of 45. Love the way Harris handled the hecklers in North Carolina today. Also, Michelle's speech to get out the vote in Georgia had me in tears. So brilliant and profound. She is inspirational. Before I go to more comments, how would this race be different if Michelle Obama was running?
Well, I mean, I don't like to speculate on that myself because she really hates politics. And for a while, you had a lot of women, specifically white women, like, we need to get Michelle. We need to get Michelle. I'm like, how many times I'm going to respect that woman because she went through way too much, supporting her husband's aspirations. But she has expressed so much how she does not like politics. The fact that she's out here now campaigning this much with Kamala Harris shows that how important this race is. Shows how important. Remember, because she's got two daughters who are in their childbearing years. Okay, and so I think that she's doing this for her kids, right? For kids and country. And so I think that I think that because I could never see it as a possibility, I can't even speculate because she just doesn't have it in her to do it.
My thing is, I know she doesn't, and I know why she's doing it. But if you think you see some bad stuff now with our vice president, baby, you can ramp that up about 10 times. That whole family would have been dragged. And you want to talk about serious security, they would have had to triple their security.
Yep. I mean, you see how they were when they were in the White House. You saw how that was. Put it this way: if people had balls enough to go up to the fence of the White House and put an Obama mannequin on a noose and hang it from that fence. Yeah, it's funny because here's the one thing. We hear about, quote unquote, 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, right? You know what we never heard about? And we know there were hundreds, thousands of them maybe, are the death threats on the Obamas. And I promise you, when you go to look at those the FBI records when they come out, we're gonna be amazed, because we know that they existed, right? We know that they existed. So I think that's why I think that she wouldn't have done that.
Interesting. All right.
Put it this way: America's ugliness. Kamala Harris wins. It's going to be amazing policy-wise. But I promise you, it's like, racists are exhausting people. They're exhausting as people, okay? They are exhausting as people. But isn't that the whole fundamental point of racism? Their whole point is to wear you down so you stop and you don't, and you stop trying to change the things.
The long game.
Right, that make them uncomfortable. And I think that they're gonna go back to doing the things that they were doing between 2008 and 2016, right?
All right, some comments in the chat room, and no worry, Lala is just logged out and logged back in because for some reason when Aisha is talking, there's echoing on her end, and I have to mute her, so I don't want to have to mute her manually. So Regina says, Jake Tapper asked Seth Meyer if 45's winning would benefit his comedy show. Seth looked horrified. He said he can find humor in many other things. Capitalist media feeds off of 45. Michelle says they would have dragged the Obamas, including their daughters, if Michelle had run. Regina says the last chapter of her book, when she sat back on the steps eating her toasted cheese sandwich, does not show a woman who wants to be POTUS. She is too down to earth. And then Regina says the races are exhausting, ignorant, and sinister.
Yeah.
But when have they not been? Look at our history. They could care less as long as they feel like they're the ones in power. I mean, anytime that people are going to kill children and not care, spit in your face and see you as monkeys, and never even think twice about it. This is their history, and we can't expect them to change. Although I will say there are some that have come out and talked about how they've manifested their change and how they've seen things, but something major had to happen in their life to someone that they loved before that absolutely happens.
Right. And the funny thing of it is that, you got people on the right saying, well, you're like, JD Vance is being the same kind of racist that Trump is. And they're like, well, he can't be racist because his kids are half Indian. Well, you know what? Strom Thurmond also had a half black daughter.
And Mitch McConnell.
Of course.
But that's one
Mitch
of
McConnell what?
Well, his wife.
Oh, that's right.
Aisha.
Right. And but and I know and that's one of Lala's favorite all-time politicians. So
who is stepping down this month? This month, yes.
He can't hang no more. Old turtleneck can't hang no more. You gotta go.
He's like, Well, you know why? Because I think he doesn't believe that he'll get reelected to leadership after his book came out and he trashed Trump.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
not only that, I have to say that even though Kentucky is majority a red state, there, like Louisville is not, but there are, because it's patches, of course, of blue. He just sees the writing on the wall. These people don't care for him, but Andy Bashir is becoming more and more convincing to his constituents because of how he runs things in that country, in that county, and in that whole state. He still has stood firm on everything that he said, and more people are seeing him as an open door for people to walk through and change their minds.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked a little about this already. Anything further about concerns about reactions to outcomes of the U.S. president's election? And before we get to that, just want to say for people who stick around for the live at the end of today's conversation, there's Ask Aisha and Lala Anything. So if you got questions for them, hold on, or as the old song, hold on, wait a minute. And you'll be able to ask them anything. If you don't ask them questions, I will ask them questions. But concerns about reactions to the outcomes. You've talked a little bit about it earlier on. Any further concerns you have?
I don't think it'll be federal this time. If they do any type of insurrection-like activity, any kind of coup, I don't think it'll be on the federal. I think the lesson that they learned was that they will probably, if they overwhelm the state houses, they feel like it might be too many different things going on to catch focus. But I don't think that they'll go federal.
You're reading my alleged mind, because I'm going to share a story from today.
Well, I'll got one more thing to say before you share that story.
Okay.
Also, not only just that, but if you've noticed that there's been stories that have been kind of tucked away in the media about all the people who had their hand in destroying ballots and being charged in Georgia. These people are now being sentenced, not a slap on the wrist, baby girl. No, you got to go and serve time.
Yeah, but if 45 gets in, he'll find a way of them getting out.
We're not claiming that, Dr. Vibe. It's not happening.
I'm just saying.
And I mean, here's the other part of it too.
I said
yeah, but here's the other part of it too, and that's going to make you. People are wondering why there was this descent into madness this week. And it's because of a story that the national media did not cover. But I sent Lala and Jill in our text chat this story. Young Thug pled guilty in Fani Willis's RICO case. Okay? Which means he's flipping. That was the case that all the people were watching to see how that outcome would come out, to determine how she was going to do the Trump case. Okay, because that is also a RICO case.
Yes.
She got the main person to flip. Okay, and plead guilty. So that you could best believe, look, while the rest of the news media in all these people, the pundits and everybody, took their eye off that, I promise you, Trump wakes up every morning at 3:15 because he's so bothered by it. Look, because he's so bothered by it, and Googles Fani Willis to see what she's doing. He Googles Fani Willis. He Googles Chutkin. He Googles the judge up in New York City. And you know how you know it bothers him?
Major news.
You know how you know the cases are bothering him? Because who does he say he's going to appoint as Attorney General?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Little Miss
Eileen Cannon. That one case that went away.
That she fell right into his little clutches, and she's just as quickly as she can be.
Because, I mean, I'm concerned about the reactions because Donald Trump was evil the last time, but he wasn't evil and crazy.
Yeah, he's completely lost everything.
Right now, he's evil and crazy.
Would you say he's reverted to his old school style? Because some of us.
No, this is beyond that. Dr. Vibe, he was simulating oral sex on a microphone yesterday because the microphone went out.
Yes. You didn't see that?
That's what that comment was about. Is Trump a fan of Prince? He was doing that. The guy put on this yellow vest earlier in the week, looking like somebody's elementary school safety patrol, and tried to get into a garbage truck. Was stumbling, walking, needed help to get into the garbage truck, and then when he did, in a garbage truck, doubled down on the garbage comment about Puerto Ricans.
Yes.
While he was in a garbage truck.
Wow.
So I don't.
Wow.
So and those are just two things from this week. There was also the Liz Cheney thing from this week. There was. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, and then the more he's out there calling people dumb, calling people this, calling people that, and like every Republican accusation is an admission. This man he's crazy. He's losing his faculties, and he's evil. So he's an even bigger threat this time than he was before.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Nicole Wallace made a good point when she said, it is time at this point. Once he did that thing, he said, it is time, George W. Bush. You need to say something about what you plan on doing, because he threatened the daughter of your vice president.
Exactly.
And so, at this point, and I get why George Bush isn't saying anything, because guess what? Until 2017, he was the worst president in recent history. Okay.
Yep.
I don't think he wants people to remember how bad he was, because guess what? The gifts of Trump to him is that Trump is far worse. He's like, I'm bad, but my God. When
No, hold on. Do I have permission to read this article? I know. Yes. I want to get this in. Okay, so this is an article from today. U.S. election 2024 news update. Washington State activates National Guard.
Yeah.
In case of election violence.
Ain't no in case. They know it's coming.
Yep.
Right.
And see, I think the states that have Democratic governors, those governors, I think, are already going to be on point and have their National Guards activated like Washington. States we need to worry about are Georgia and North Carolina, because if those southern states flip, they got Republican. Well, North Carolina actually has a Democratic governor, but so that might be okay. But Georgia, please.
It's civil war.
Because North Carolina's got a double whammy to deal with. They gotta help the rest of us avoid Trump, and then they gotta avoid Mark Robinson as governor. Hang in there, North Carolina.
Wow. Like, some of me says that whatever the aftermath is, there's going to be violence.
Yeah. Well, see, you know what? My daughter and I were having this conversation earlier this week. It's funny because a lot of the reason, I think, us being here in America, in the country, we don't get as much international news as other countries get.
Right.
And for that reason, the way that our government runs with a federal law, state laws, city laws, in neighborhood ordinances. And then don't forget, if you live in a subdivision, there's also a homeowners association. Okay. So we live under all these rules all the time. But for people who are outside our country, the fact that we have a federal government and state governments, and at times they come in direct opposition of each other, is confusing to people. It really is confusing people, because people in other places understand, why don't you just have a federal law?
Right.
Period. Because remember, we're a country. We're not a continent. The continent includes Canada and Mexico. You go someplace like France they have a country law. I'm sure they have other ordinances and things like that, but their whole country has a law. It makes no sense as to why our individual states have to have laws on certain. Think about it this way: certain things are crimes in Connecticut that are not crimes in Alabama, and vice versa. the fact that we can travel interstate without having to use passports or anything like that in the country, within the country, and we only know our local state laws and barely know all of those. The idea that I could go to Alabama and break a law that is not a law where I'm from, I could get arrested and thrown into prison when I did not know something was, and a lot of these states have some stupid laws that they never got rid of from the 1700s. So the fact of the matter is, like, wait a second, but I did not know that was a law. But that will not be an excuse. And it should be, actually. Because the truth is, the one thing that we know is that we know, like, that every country, murder. We know that in every state, murder is against the law. However, certain states treat murder differently than others. Some have involuntary manslaughter, voluntary manslaughter.
Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know.
Right.
Mississippi.
How
I know.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. We should have one statute. And because of that, even we get confused because people are not, these concerns about the reactions, a lot of these reactions to the outcome are going to be because people don't realize that they have it two ways. Yes, the presidential election part on your ballot is not run by the federal government. Okay, every state, it just happens to be on a state ballot. People don't realize that the only reason that Kamala is on the ballot in every state was because the Biden campaign went and did that paperwork. Every time it's like we don't hear about that because we expect it, right? But think about this. Why is Cornel West not on the ballot in all the states? Because he couldn't get on the ballot in all the states. He didn't have enough signatures, right? So these processes are why I worry about reactions, because there's so many processes and people don't understand them.
All right. Lala, anything you want to add? I always like looking at Lala's facial reactions because they speak so much. Anything you want to add, Lala?
Well, it just struck a serious chord, and I understand it. But Aisha made an extremely valid point. Things that are okay in mostly northern states are totally different in the southern states, and you have to look at the history from that. And you would think by now, living in 2024, things would change, but they're not. They're actually going backwards, and that's a very frightening thing. And so it wrenches my heart. It felt like a punch in my gut when Aisha said that, because all this week I've been fighting that. And so I'm actually seeing that myself in a circumstance that I am dealing with my family. So, people around the world don't understand. And I can also see that as a point as well, because traveling back and forth from Portugal to America and seeing how the Portugal people are looking at me going, what's going on over there? Many of the older people just shake their head and say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Then I had someone that I had coffee with where he was praising Trump and I was like, you don't know anything about our country, do you? And so when I sat here and explained to him about our country, he was like, oh, I didn't know. Then a couple of weeks later, he said, I went and researched that. I was wrong. So we have a serious problem, and we're seeing it manifest loud and proud because now we are at a point in our lives where we can see more news, more things are being reported. People like you and I are able to go out with our phones and we're able to record things and put them up for people to see. Whereas even though the media keeps things quiet, us people down here in the marching lines are still able to get the word
as
out.
we close down. It is Saturday before the Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Who will win the Electoral College?
Harris.
All right, let's end it off here because these ladies need strength for Tuesday because I have a feeling it's going to be a long one on today. So, as always, we like to have them share their contact information. First off, the Lala girl, lady.
It's me. Nobody asked me how real estate is doing during this election cycle, so I just put in a link to let you know that. Because it is very interesting. It is a tie to real estate in this, but you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I made it very easy. I have a lot of great stuff there. And I'm asking you that you're watching us on YouTube, most of you, but I am also looking for your subscriptions over there on my YouTube as well. So I look forward to seeing you over there.
100%. Aisha K.
You can find me at Aisha Staggers on Twitter and on Instagram. It's AK Staggers.
Wonderful. That is it. So me. I just put Aisha back up. No, there we go. All right. So let's finish it off right quick. If you want to get in touch with me. Okay, let's do it this way because there's too many things going on and this has gone long and we need to get rest. All right. If you want to get a hold of me, website, the drvibeshow.com, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, the dr VIBESHOW, Instagram at the drvibeshow.com, X at drvibeshow, email address dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, remember, coming up this Tuesday, live, 9 p.m., 6 p.m. Pacific, U.S. presidential election live watch party. Wherever you're watching this, that's where you need to be. All right, I'm going to end up. There's other stuff I've already put in the comments section wherever you're watching, how you can get a hold of the Primetime Saturday store, the Discord group for Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala, and also Girlfriends Chat. It's all in your comments section. And finally, and also how you can get in contact with me. I believe I put it in there. If not, I'm going to put it there right now. But I'm going to end off with this. Well, first of all, thank you to everyone who watched live on the replay. Hope we see you on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. And then we're going to finish off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And as always, just don't manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. We will see you on Tuesday. And if not, we're going to miss you, but you're going to miss us too because we're going to rock on Tuesday. God bless. Peace, well. Keep the faith. Walk good.